What's going on, everybody? It's your boy ColeMize for ColeMizeStudios.com, and today I'm going to be talking to you about 3 ways that you can improve your rap voice today. And if you're new to my channel, this channel is dedicated to helping up-and-coming rappers be a better rapper right now. And before you leave today, make sure you get yourself a copy of my ebook called The #1 Fundamental to Rapping. That's my gift to you, completely free, and it's going to give you a really good overview of how rapping works, and it'll help you get a jump start. And it's an easy read, something you can consume just within 30 minutes to an hour. You can get that at the top of the video's description below. Okay, before I go any deeper, let me first just tackle one, I think, common misconception a lot of rappers have when it comes to their rap voice, and it's that if they don't like the way they sound, then they just need to change it. And in most cases, it's not a matter of needing to change your rap voice. It's a matter of learning how to maximize and get the best result out of your current rap voice, because you only have one voice. And the further you go away from the natural way that you sound, the more you'll come off to the listener most likely as being inauthentic and fake and forced. Okay, so just first realize that there's really probably nothing wrong with the way you currently sound. It's really just a matter of maximizing and building upon what you currently have. You see, everybody's voice is like a musical instrument, okay? And every instrument is unique. It's like a thumbprint. It's unique to you, okay? And in life, you'll find that it's not so much about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. It's about maximizing the use of what you currently have. And so every musical instrument has different properties, that has different characteristics, and with that comes different limitations. Okay, so you have like a clarinet, right? Or let's say a flute. A flute is a really skinny, small instrument. It's really high pitched. It's not going to sound deep and low, you know? And then you have other instruments like tubas. Tubas are really low, you know, and then you can have something like a saxophone, and a saxophone can be somewhat kind of in the middle. It can kind of have some low notes and some high notes, but maybe not as low as a tuba, and maybe not as high as a flute. Basically, everybody's voice is an instrument, and it's unique to them, and it has its own limitations. So the key to really improving your rap voice is learning your own limitations and how to maximize the results within them. So my first major tip for you in maximizing your current voice, improving your rap voice, is #1, understanding that your voice has a sweet spot. Okay, this is super practical, but let me explain this. Typically, everyone's sweet spot is around where they naturally speak at. Okay, this is a super obvious thing, but, and I know that sounds like super easy, like, okay, what's the big deal? Like, why would anyone struggle then with having a good rap voice? The problem is a lot of rappers struggle with staying within that sweet spot when they're rapping, and I'm going to talk about a few major reasons why. Okay, so just to reiterate, everyone's sweet spot, typically, not always, but most cases, your sweet spot is where you naturally speak at. Okay, it's what makes you sound natural. Okay, it's how you sound, and the further that you go away from that, the more likely you are to run into your voice beginning to sound unnatural. Okay, so the key here is to understand your sweet spot and understand the threshold of how far you can go away from that natural sweet spot and still sound good. Okay, the main reason why most rappers completely miss their sweet spot is they just rap way too loud. Okay, and there's several reasons for this. Let me just go down them. #1, one of the most common reasons is rappers, let's say you're in a studio situation and you're recording, you got your headphones on. Typically, rappers will rap too loud because the instrumental is just way too loud. Like, let's say they purchased the instrumental, they leased it offline or somewhere. That instrumental's already been mastered, which basically means its loudness has been maximized. So it's loud as it possibly can be without being distorted. And so if they don't turn that instrumental down, they're rapping over something that's super duper loud, and they're trying to rap louder so they can hear themselves in the headphones. And that's a negative for 2 reasons. 1, you're not going to sound good because you're probably going to be distorted just from you recording at a level too loud. And then 2, you're just going to blow your voice out. You're going to be almost screaming just so you can hear yourself. So the first thing you should do in any recording situation is just go ahead and lower the instrumental. Lower it around like -10, -15 dBs, and then kind of match the gain on your microphone to be at a comparative level to where you can hear yourself in the instrumental clearly. That way you don't have to rap so loud just to hear yourself. The second reason why most rappers will rap too loud is because they just simply are not letting the microphone do the work. So for an example, this is very common like in live performance situations. If you're live on stage, rappers will have a tendency just to still rap way too loud. And again, it's the microphone's job to amplify your voice. Okay, so let the microphone do its job. That also rings true in a studio setting. If you're recording in a studio, the microphone is going to make you loud. And then whoever's like mixing and engineering your song, they're going to control the volume and all that type of stuff. Okay, so the main thing you should be focused on is your tone, not your loudness. Okay, because when you're on a mic, the mic's going to make you loud, and whoever's engineering you, who's ever mixing you, they're going to have control over the loudness. And again, let me piggyback off of the whole rapping loud thing. Another reason why a lot of rappers will rap too loud is they're simply leaning on loudness to infuse energy into the rap performance. Okay, and that, I'm not saying that's a wrong thing to do. Okay, you can certainly put more energy into a rap delivery by getting louder. Okay, but that's not the only way. That's just one way that you can do it. And if you just lean on volume, just rapping louder, then if that's your only trick, then you're likely going to come off sounding flat, because you'll likely rap loud the whole time. Therefore, you don't even really sound that energetic because you're just flat the whole time. If you just rap at a certain loudness the whole entire time you're rapping, you're still going to sound somewhat monotone and flat, even though you're like rapping loud. The point I'm getting is this, is volume can be one way to get a little bit more energy as far as out of your voice, but it can also actually hinder you, because the louder that you rap, the thinner your voice is going to sound. Okay, so the lower that you speak in volume, like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's happening? The more bass is going to be in your voice. The more strain that you put on your voice, the louder that you rap, the thinner your voice is going to start sounding. Okay, and so just keep that in mind. Focus on tone. Focus on how to get energy out of your voice by tone. Okay, not just leaning on volume. So for an example, I'm talking to you right now. I could say, look, man, do you hear what I'm saying to you? See how I just put more emphasis in, hey, man, do you hear what I'm saying to you right now? I'm not yelling. I didn't say, do you hear what I'm saying to you? I'm not yelling. I'm not screaming. But so just keep that in mind. Volume is something that's going to be controlled by whoever's engineering your performance, whether that be a live performance or you're in the studio. Focus on tone, how your vocal tone is, and try to get energy out of your voice at a lower volume. That's the trick. Try to do that. Again, I'm not shunning you from rapping loud. There's a place for that as well. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. So if you choose to rap louder, do it more so to add texture to your voice. What I mean by that is you can add what we call distortion to your voice by rapping louder. You know, almost like a crackly sound, like hey. DMX is a great example of someone who has like a distorted type of voice, who can add that, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But you can even add that distortion without yelling. Hey, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's happening? You know what I mean? It's going down. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not yelling though. So, but you can achieve different tones or different textures if you rap louder, but do not lean solely on volume. Use that as one of your tactics, one of your techniques, if you will, to achieve a different tone, but also experiment a lot with getting tones out of a more conservative volume, more of a normal speaking volume, if you will, of how you would sound if you're speaking to someone like right across the table from you. And to reiterate, the key here is understanding your sweet spot and realizing that the further you go away from that sweet spot, the more likely you are to start sounding a little bit too artificial, a little bit too forced, a little bit too unnatural. And the key to improving your rap voice is really about remaining natural, sounding natural. And think about it like when it comes to rap delivery in the music world, think of it like acting. Like what makes a bad actor or an actress? It's usually they're doing too much. They usually add too much energy into something where it feels like not authentic at all, and it just feels fake and artificial. So you would be surprised at how much little subtleties actually make, how big of a difference they make into your rap delivery, your rap voice. A little bit actually goes a long way. being a little bit more subtle can actually make a humongous difference in as far as how what you're saying feels to the listener. Okay, the second tip to help you improve your rap voice is understanding how to preserve your rap voice. Okay, your voice, your vocal box is a muscle, and there's only so much that it can take within a given day before it begins to get maxed out, okay, and worn out. Just like a muscle, when you go work out in the gym, there's only so much you can do on your biceps or your triceps in one day before they just burn out, and you just need to give them time to recover. The vocal box is very much a similar way. You can think of your vocal cords just like a muscle, and it can only handle so much of a strain within a given time. So again, the louder that you rap, the quicker that you're going to actually deplete your vocal cords, the quicker you're going to cause your vocal cords to max out. I think of it kind of similar like driving a car, you know, and you rapping loud is like you hitting the pedal to the metal in a car, and the faster you drive, the quicker you're going to run through all that gasoline you have in your tank. I think of it in a similar way when it comes to your rap voice. So once again, going back to my tip from the previous section of trying to focus on rapping at more of a conservative volume, that's going to give you a lot more mileage out of your rap voice, and it's going to help you preserve your rap voice. Also understand that your voice is not a static thing. Your voice is dynamic. Your voice will sound different at different times of the day. For an example, when you wake up first thing in the morning, your vocal is going to likely have a lot more bass in it because it's been resting. Unless you've been screaming in your sleep and you had a nightmare or something, you're likely going to wake up and your voice is going to be a lot deeper. You're going to be talking like this right here, you know. Your voice will likely be deeper. But at the end of the day, if you've been doing a lot of talking throughout the day, then your voice is going to have a little bit more mileage on it. It's going to sound a little bit more different. Okay, so depending on, you know, what you've done with your voice in that given day, it's going to affect how you sound. So that's something to keep in mind. Like if you know you got a recording session coming up or a performance or whatever, keep that in mind, you know, leading up to that. Like if you'll find like a lot of interviews with like singers and stuff doing interviews, you know, I'll almost be talking like this during the interview because they're really trying to preserve their rap voice, their singing voice, and so they're talking like this. But that's what they're trying to do, is preserve it. So think of it like that. You know, your rap voice has a certain amount of mileage it can handle before it starts deteriorating and kind of losing some of the quality that you naturally have. But that being said too, your voice will also sound different at different stages in your life. Like if you go back to how you sound like in middle school, you know, high school, you'll sound a little bit, your voice will likely sound a little bit thinner than how it does when you get in your 30s and 40s and 50s and stuff. So your voice will change as you age. It's just a part of life. Also, again, the more you use it, the more you're going to lose it, right? You only have so much mileage you can use on your voice within a given day. So like in a recording situation, this is why it's also really helpful to punch in, because let's say you're trying to lay down a whole rap verse. You could rap the whole verse from beginning to end with no problem as far as messing up or anything like that, okay? But when it comes to your delivery, your voice, you're going to rap it slightly different. There's going to be slightly different ways you say each word every single time. And so even if you don't like mess up, like forget your lines, you still may not like per se like how you sound within, like, let's say a 4-bar section. So instead of rapping the whole verse all the way over from beginning to end, just punch in on those parts that you need to fix. I'm a big fan of like recording verses like in 4-bar sections, because it helps me preserve my voice. So that way I'm only focused on perfecting little pieces at a time. They're not super small. I mean, again, if a verse is typically 6 bars, so that's 4-bar sections. So if I just focus on 4 bars at a time, it's a really good amount of space for me to work on things without overexerting myself and working myself unnecessarily hard. So that helps me, again, preserve my rap voice, and it allows me to sound better for longer. And also, like when you're songwriting, when you're working on a verse, you'll notice a lot of times, a lot of us rappers, we'll almost whisper. Like if we're trying to rap our verse, we'll kind of whisper or just say it in our heads. And then let's say we're recording like a rough draft, we may actually only get kind of loud on those parts where we're actually really trying to perform it, opposed to like rapping loud the whole entire time, because again, that's just going to really cause your voice to get maxed out really quickly. All right, tip number 3, listening to your voice. I know that sounds like super obvious maybe, but let me just talk about it a little bit. So you sound differently in your head. than you actually do when you play your voice back. Let's say in a recording studio situation, you sound differently. Like the way I sound right now as I'm talking, when I play this back and listen to it, I'm going to sound a little different. And what you need to also understand is most of us hate the way we sound. Most of us. And that's okay. That's okay. But get in the habit of recording yourself and then playing yourself back to you. So now you can just hear you as a listener and not just a performer, and critique yourself. Ask yourself, what do I not like about the way that I sound? Okay. And then work on improving that. In that aspect, doing this will also help you just be a better speaker. There may be certain ways that certain things that you do when you speak you don't like. Like I remember back in the day, like shortly out of high school, back when we used to leave each other voicemail messages. Before I would actually like send a voicemail message, I would always play it back. And there was plenty of times where I would re-record the voicemail message. And I just did that as a way to critique the way I sounded. Even though I wasn't rapping or even, it wasn't for a performance piece, but I was constantly critiquing the way I sounded because I didn't like the way I sound. And I still hear myself now and I don't like certain things that I'm trying to still improve the way that I sound. That's an ongoing process, but I speak way better now than I used to. So I used to do this just on some speaking type stuff. Like I would slur my words too much. I wouldn't articulate or really enunciate certain words, and I would just slur things together. And like down here in the South, I mean, that's kind of how we talk, some of us. Instead of saying like, do you know what I am talking about? We'll just say, you know what I'm talking about? It's just slang, So anyways, that's just kind of giving you a little inside baseball, if you will, of myself. Like this is something I've been doing for years where I just listen to myself and critique myself. And we're all works in progress. So it's totally normal to hate the way you sound. Just strive to work on that and not dislike it as much. You're still going to probably not like love the way you sound even with that. Like I don't know too many rappers who just ride around listening to their own music all the time. I know they're out there. But typically we don't do that. Typically we're not that high on ourselves to where we're all we want to listen to and watch. You know what I'm saying? Okay, just to reiterate here, the 3 major tips are: number 1, know your sweet spot. Try to stay within your natural speaking range and focus on adding more energy there. Okay. And the further you go away from that natural sweet spot, the more likely you're going to be to start sounding unnatural. And you're also going to start really putting a lot more strain on your voices, which is not going to allow you to last as long. That leads to step number 2, learning how to preserve your voice. Okay. Learning how to get the most mileage out of your voice allows your voice to sound good for longer. Okay. And tip number 3 is listening to your voice. Critique yourself. Ask yourself, what do you not like? And focus on trying to change that. Be experimental. Try different things. That way, once you record and play yourself back, you're giving yourself instant feedback. And just pay attention to what you don't like and experiment and have fun with it. So there you go. 3 ways that you can improve your rap voice right now. I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comment section below if this is something that you struggle with, and let me know if any of the tips that I gave you today helped you out. And again, if you're new to my channel, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself, and get yourself a copy of my ebook, The #1 Fundamental to Rapping. You can click up there on the I, or you can see it right down there in the video's description. My name is ColeMize with ColeMizeStudios.com, and always remember, when it comes to rapping, there's no rules, there's only techniques. Peace. Hey man, you see that subscribe button right there? Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Oh, and don't forget the bell icon. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Hey, I know you see that like button, right? Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. And look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, today I'm gonna kill it.